Steve Rogers has had his entire history altered, making it so that within his entire timeline, he was Hydra. And he finally felt that it was time for Hydra to take over, so he systematically conquered the US. The heroes were pushed to the side as fugitives, the X-Men pushed to the north in their own nation, and the Inhumans were all locked up. The Resistance thought that this was the end, until the secret of what had happened to Steve finally reached their ears. A spark of hope was ignited, and they set off into two groups, one to kill Steve Rogers and one to recover the Cosmic Cube fragments and fix it. During all of this, we discovered another Steve Rogers inside of the Vanishing Point. Steve within the Vanishing Point helps the woman that he saved walk through the mysterious forest. When he finally sits down, it's because she's poisoned. She asks what he meant by he was trying to get home, and he explains that he has no idea where he is or what's going on. He woke up here, and he only remembers the basics: name, rank, serial number. But he has a feeling that there is somewhere that he is needed, someplace that he needs to save. As she coughed up from the poison, he picked her up and he began to carry her through the forest. Meanwhile, in deep space, Peter Quill, Rocket Raccoon, and Baby Groot are standing in front of someone. Greetings, everyone! Thank you for coming. I hope you like the snacks that we put out. My name is Peter Quill, but obviously you know me as the amazing Star-Lord. And these are my associates, Rocket and I am Groot. We're coming to you today on behalf of our planet, Earth, my homeworld. I am Groot. Earth is under attack, its most powerful country taken over by this evil organization called HYDRA, which turned out to be led by a guy that we all thought was a hero, Steve Rogers, Captain America. I am Groot. Now hold on. Not everybody buys it this is the real Steve Rogers. Could be a clone, a robot, a doppelganger, who knows? Now to keep it straight, a lot of folks are going with the nickname Hydra Cap, Captain Octopus Head, and I'm partial to Stevel. But even with the interruptions from Rocket, Peter continues. Here's the big part. He built this force field around the planet, trapping everybody on the surface, and we don't have the firepower to take it down and get back to Earth. So we've come here to ask for your help. I am Groot. And then in front of Peter, we see the various races in space. Kree, Skrull, Badoon, all of them. We, of course, are very familiar with Earth, so just to be clear, every Earthling is trapped off of the planet by the shield, and the few remaining ones on the inside are facing certain death. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. And with that, the councils begin to shout at Peter, shooting at him. Death to Earth! As he runs for cover, he calls up Captain Marvel to inform her that the request didn't go so well. Meanwhile, down in Newark, New Jersey, Black Widow is continuing her little journey to recruit people to help her kill Steve Rogers, and it has brought her to Maria Hill. They go back and forth about how Black Widow is turning over to Hill's way of thinking, and then she hands Black Widow the intel that she promised, Steve Rogers' social calendar. So Black Widow snaps at her. This is all you have for me? It's the best I can do. Informants are hard to come by when they know that they're going to be facing a firing squad, and most of my best people are already inside Crossbone's super prison. There's some good chances here, and when you take the shot, all I ask is that you take some pictures. You're disgusting, Maria. What, he gets to kill half my friends, level a city, and I'm the bad guy for wanting his corpse as my new wallpaper? We all cope in different ways, Natasha. Besides, who are you to question me on morals? I hear you have kids working for you now. What she's referring to is the fact that the children team known as the Champions has sided with Black Widow in the superhero debate of how to handle Steve and Hydra, and she is training them to become killers, even though they are still insisting that there is another way. Meanwhile, over in Montana, Sam Wilson the smuggler, former Captain America, tries to tell Tony Stark's team that this is pointless. They can't save the world with most of the world agreeing with Hydra. It would appear for many people that Hydra suits them just fine. No one is fighting in the streets and no one is opposing him. As Sam tries to walk away though, they explain that they have an answer. They can save Steve Rogers. They just need the Cosmic Cube to reverse things back to how it's supposed to be. Meanwhile, Steve reports to his Situation Room to an astounding, "Hail Hydra!" The operation, led by Baron Zemo, is underway. They're attacking Atlantis, the supposed home for one of the Cosmic Cube fragments. He leads the charge into the temple where they slaughter many of the Atlanteans, and they move into the temple where Black Ant finds the supposed fragment. Doc Ock moves forward to test the validity of it, but finds that it's fake. Namor has tricked Hydra again, making multiple fakes and hiding them all over the place. In response, Baron Zemo stabs the priest in charge of the temple and ensures Steve that he will find the cube. He will search until there is nowhere for Namor to hide it, and then he blows up that portion of Atlantis. As he gets these reports, Steve also gets the report of another cube fragment, one in a very sketchy area, a very hostile area. They ask who Steve wants to send in, and he informs them that he'll handle this one all by himself. Meanwhile, Tony Stark's AI has convinced Sam Wilson to help them, and he begins to move them through the backwoods to get them to safety. His rules are simple. Everyone listens to him and no one runs ahead. But Mockingbird notes that the device that Tony Stark has made to track the cubes doesn't actually say that this is where the cube is. So why not tell everyone where they're actually going? Tony shushes her, because if they knew where they were going, no one would go. They'd be fools not to run the other way. And in this area that everyone is heading to sits one man. No one expected to be on Earth when the shield went up. Hank Pym merged with Ultron. Pymtron sits in his home informing his Jarvis to open up the front gates to everyone. Let them walk in. It'll be so nice to see the family again. Over inside the vanishing point though, the alternate Steve Rogers lays the woman down to rest and he continues on his journey alone, hoping for the possibility of a better tomorrow. He walks forward, snapping twigs and branches as he goes. Then various Captain America villains jump out to stop him, and 2 more individuals run up to save the day. Together, the 3 of them drop each of the enemies and they stand triumphantly together. All 3 men have the same condition, though they can't remember anything, and they agree that they could use friends, perhaps even family. So, Steve Rogers, Bucky Barnes, and Sam Wilson continue to walk through the forest of the Vanishing Point. But at Black Widow's team, the Red Room, she has a HYDRA agent hostage. She begins to beat him relentlessly, taking a knife to his throat. His screaming attracts the kids who walk in, telling her to stop what she is doing. They insist that this is torture and she needs to end it. He obviously doesn't know anything, but she explains that he is on the cook staff in the rebuilding ceremony, and he was given a tour of the site, which means someone needs to get her duct tape and a blanket. Once again, the kids argue against torture to get the information, and Riri walks over untying the man, who proceeds to grab the knife from his boot, leaping at her, shouting, "Hail Hydra!" Luckily, Black Widow shoots the man before he can get anywhere, and then tells the kids, "Wonderful job, now we have to switch motels." Meanwhile, up in the far north, in Alaska, Pymtron's territory sits Tony's team and Steve Rogers' team approaching it. Tony explains to his team where they are. The area is dubbed the Ultronic Territories, and most people don't even know that it exists. Before the planetary shield went up, Pymtron returned from the stars where he was last located after fighting against the uncanny Avengers, and we will link that story down below. Instead of trying to destroy the world or attack the Avengers, he instead built a city to the north where he builds more Ultrons. HYDRA declines that it even exists, and rumor has it that Steve and Pymtron have an understanding. Scott Lang steps forward asking if this is really Ultron because it's wearing Hank Pym's face. Tony explains that it is wearing that face as a trophy. Ultron and Hank are merged, and ever since then he's been a villain trying to defeat the heroes in the name of Hank Pym. If you're curious about that story, it's called Rage of Ultron, and I'll link it down below. While they are approaching, Jarvis reports to Pymtron that they are there.
I hate to see them like this, you know? We're supposed to be a team, a family. Now look at us, divided, torn apart, but all is not lost. I can fix this. I will make things right. Hank Pym is going to save the Avengers.
At that moment, everyone runs to their objectives, and right away they cross paths with the opposing team. Ant-Man versus Black Ant, Mockingbird versus Taskmaster, and Sam Wilson versus Vision. But the most significant is Quicksilver versus Scarlet Witch, to which he's surprised that she's even around, but unaware that she's possessed. As he runs off from her attacks, Herc declares that he'll help Quicksilver, but that's when Odinson arrives, swinging his axe at his former friend. In the middle of all of this, Steve comes face to face with Tony Stark's AI. Tony, Steve, not gonna lie, kind of excited about kicking your butt and nobody being mad at me afterwards. You're not the only one who's been looking forward to this, Tony. Tony fires his blasts and Steve blocks them with his shield, and at that moment, Pymtron enters the scene, blasting everyone and knocking them out.
No, this will not do at all. I'm sorry it had to be this way, but please know that I've missed you all so dearly. It's so good to welcome you home again.
They all wake up, bound to a large dinner table. Where are we? It's Avengers Mansion, or some kind of replica of it. Seriously? What is this? And that's when they see Pymtron there with an apron that reads, "Kiss the Overlord."
It's really nothing. It's a little something that I whipped up in the kitchen. Honestly, Jarvis did most of the work.
Mockingbird says it best. This is officially the creepiest thing that I've ever been a part of. Agreed. Ultron, you will release us now, Odinson adds. And Pymtron walks over.
Ultron? Thor? Don't you recognize me? Can't you see my face? I'm your old pal, Hank Pym. Though I look around the table and I don't recognize most of you nowadays either.
Tony steps in. I can help with that. Steve's had his reality rewritten by the Cosmic Cube, Scarlet Witch is possessed by a demon, Vision is infected by an AI virus, and Thor just wants his hammer back.
Actually, Tony, I was referring to your side of the table, or more specifically, you in fact. What happened to the charming, charismatic figure that we all were in so much awe about? Who is this nervous, overreaching mess of a man in his place? I don't understand it. I know it's you in there, but what's the point of the old armor? Nostalgia?
Steve helps out though. Hardly. From what I hear, he's so drunk he can't pilot the newer models. Everyone begins to argue again, and Pymtron eventually stomps it.
Enough! Listen to yourselves, bickering back and forth, always at each other's throats. It's all you ever do anymore. What's happened to you? Where did it all go so wrong? You know, this is exhausting, and in this form I can't even be exhausted. Do you know why Ultron built this city and didn't come after you? Because you're tearing your lives apart. He didn't need to attack you, you're doing the work for him. He can just wait you out.
Steve takes this moment to chime in. Ultron, I agree with you, but Hydra is going to change all of that. Bring an end to all of this weakness and corruption.
Oh, of course, Steve, of course. Just like Tony's grand plans for the Superhuman Registration Act made everything so much better. Or when Wanda tried to fix things, creating the House of M. Oh, but that got a bit messy, didn't it? You always have big ideas for fixing problems, but you keep making things worse. That's why I brought you here, so that we can all sit around and have a nice dinner together, break bread and laugh like the old days, reconnect with what we've lost.
Steve sternly tells him, I'm not interested in nostalgia. You have something that belongs to Hydra. And Mockingbird stops him. We have a slightly different idea of who that belongs to. But Tony chimes in. Do you have any idea why we stopped having these dinners? These parties out by the pool, Hank? Because of what you did to Janet. Pymtron snaps, growing in size and grabbing Tony.
How dare you! I discovered Pym particles! I took artificial intelligence to the next level! I founded the Avengers Academy! What have you done? Your arrogance started 2 wars, your incompetence put Norman Osborn in power, and now you lecture me!
Scott Lang begins to talk down Pymtron, telling him that while Scott himself was a screw-up, he looked to Hank as a guy who didn't let screwing up hold him back, and he still sees Hank as someone who would do the right thing. So, Pymtron shrinks back down to his original purpose. He invites everyone to have dessert, except on Scott's plate is the Cosmic Cube fragment. Everyone gets up to leave and Pymtron allows them, but before he can leave, Steve asks Pymtron, Ultron, what was the point of the whole charade back there if you were just going to hand the cube over?
You keep calling me Ultron.
Wait, is that why? Steve loaded up and everyone left. He went back to the Supreme Command, and it is there that we see Namor waiting for him. After destroying locations at Atlantis, Namor was there to deliver the piece of the Cosmic Cube so that he could end the conflict between Hydra and Atlantis. Regardless of Tony winning against Ultron, Tony's team is still not ahead of anything as Steve just got a piece anyway. And honestly, he's not too concerned about Tony winning back there either. They have a man on the inside. Someone working for them on Tony's team. But who could that be? Over in Washington, D.C., Viper gets a report that the Hydra agents have just captured Black Widow. She walks in to see Black Widow in chains, and so they begin to question her as to what she was planning. Meanwhile, outside, the champions are looking at the facility and they decide that it's time for a rescue mission. Black Widow proceeds to give up all of the information on her plan, steal a Hydra transport ship and kill Captain America. Viper is shocked. Why is she giving her all of this information? And Black Widow looks her dead in the eyes. Because, Viper, you shouldn't be concerned about me. You should be concerned about Supreme Leader finding out about your little illegal operation here. Or you could help us out, and not only would you be spared of Steve's wrath, but you could lead Hydra when we take him down. Viper pulls out 2 guns, shooting the guards next to her, telling Black Widow, just a moment. The champions actually were breaking into another facility to rescue a shriveled old man. Meanwhile, Tony continues his journey and they arrive in Wakanda for the fragment that T'Challa has, but he refuses to give it up. Instead, he offers Tony's team the option to bring him the fragments, and he will use them to complete their cause and do exactly what they want. But he doesn't trust them to have it. So they go to their next location, Madripoor, where they rescue Shang-Chi, who supposedly has another fragment, and as they find out, he lost his when Hydra beat him, and it looks like it was the X-Men that took it. The fact that they aren't collecting any more pieces brings Sam to question Tony's device, the one that's supposedly tracking where these shards are, and it's obviously not working. And Tony tells him that there must be some residue of the fragments that are triggering it. It does work. Trust him. Everyone begins to disagree that this is becoming a problem. They haven't won anything and they keep losing the fragments. What's next? Over in Washington, the Hammer of Mjolnir sits in a field, and Ambassador McCoy of the mutants in the north questions why Steve just left it sitting there. Steve welcomes him, asking him how things are in New Tian. And McCoy explains that there are problems, but the mutants have their own nation run by them now. It's a day that he never thought that he'd get to see. So Steve asks him, well then, can you explain to me why Kraken has told me that you have something that belongs to me? McCoy tells him, I have no idea what you're talking about. And Steve tells him, there's a reason that I left this hammer in the field. To remind all of those around me of its power. That at any time, I can lift it again. The hammer views me as worthy, so it is by my compassion that I do not use it. McCoy asks him, are you threatening me? No, I'm reminding you. I assume I'll be hearing from your office soon. Steve leaves McCoy there to think on that for a moment, and as he boards his helicopter, he questions how his Avengers are doing. They explain that Vision is fine under the control of the AI virus, though there is a hiccup once in a while. But Odinson, he's a bigger problem. You may have been wondering why Odinson teamed up with Steve at all. Well, he questions if what he is doing is the right thing. HYDRA tells him that they can save Jane Foster from Purgatory, the one that she now resides in, and that they can restore the bridge to Asgard, but he senses that all of this is a lie. The things that he has seen, the innocents being persecuted, the evil gaining control, fear taking hold. But he questions all of it, because Steve Rogers is worthy, and if he is capable of lifting the hammer, when Odinson is not, then shouldn't Odinson just follow him? Steve informs HYDRA that Odinson listens to him and he'll talk to him. So with everything still moving forward, Tony's team returns to base, to home. They say hello to everyone and Tony goes into his lab where he meets up with a few of the others and they ask how things went. Raj asks the big question, did you tell them the truth? The kid from before asks what truth and Tony explains it to him. It didn't go well. Tony, in fact, has never had a way to track the cube fragments. They're working entirely off of Rick Jones' data. Tony just built them hope, a pretend machine that made them think that they had a chance. But elsewhere, Mockingbird makes a call. This is Mockingbird, and we have returned to the base, and we only have 2 fragments. Up above, HYDRA's dreadnoughts move in, and Tony feels them approaching, shouting, "Turn on the shields!" They open fire on the mountain base with the resistance, and Steve gets a report that they won't be able to break down the defenses. So Steve tells them, do not worry, I have a secret weapon. Meanwhile, in the vanishing point, Steve, Bucky, and Sam walk forward until they trigger a trap. Sam is captured, Bucky is knocked out, and Steve is hit in the back of the head. And that's when they meet their assailant, Red Skull. Back in the regular universe, Steve walks into a room where he sees Bruce Banner, a very much alive Bruce Banner. The HYDRA agent explains that the spell that they used to revive him is only temporary. He has very little time, and Steve might want to make this happen fast. Odinson then leaps from the battle carrier into battle, shouting, "Forgive me!" And he slams into the side of the resistance base, taking out portions of the mountain with him, and barreling into the headquarters. Yet all he can do is dent the wall as the shields are holding up. The team asks Tony if Odinson is strong enough to break through, and he tells them that he isn't, and then he turns back to the group. Our problem outside is being handled, but inside we have a larger problem. Someone in this room is HYDRA. Everyone begins to turn on each other, such as accusing Quicksilver of running off and helping HYDRA. But he defends that those times he ran off, explaining that he was looking for his sister. Meanwhile, with Steve, he stands before Bruce. Steve, can you explain something to me? You're HYDRA now? How long have I been dead? Steve tells him, I understand that this must be disorienting for you, and I wish that I could explain everything, but unfortunately you won't be around that long, Bruce. Back with Tony's team, Quicksilver asks Mockingbird why is she sneaking off making secret calls, and she outright tells them she's actually been reporting everything to Maria Hill. Using this as a moment of truth, Roz steps forward explaining Tony's device never even worked. Everyone begins to reveal secrets and argue, and that's when Scott Lang steps up. Everyone, stop, alright? It was me, I'm the traitor, I called HYDRA. Back with Steve, he tries to explain everything that he can. What happened to Banner, why HYDRA is good, and why he should be helping them. And Banner tells him, no, just put me back in my box. Steve looks at him. I wasn't talking to you, Bruce. The eyes of Bruce Banner begin to glow green. Quicksilver turns on Scott, slamming him into the wall, demanding to know why. And Scott tells them that they got Cassie, they found his daughter, and they're using her as a hostage. And that's when Tony sees it on the screen, the one thing that can break through the wall, and the Hulk smashes through it. Steve jumps down to walk in after him, and the Hulk begins slamming everyone around while they try to fight against him, all except for Hawkeye. He takes a knee, ready to face his judgment for killing Bruce all those months ago. The Thing runs in shouting, it's clobbering time! And he throws the Hulk into a wall, so the Hulk counters with a punch so hard that it breaks off pieces of the Thing. Raj steps back up with the ultimate distraction for the Hulk, androids of the original Avengers team, and he sends them off to distract him. The Resistance uses that chance to flee. They try to get out of there, but there are hundreds of HYDRA soldiers opening fire on them. When they get to their ship, their only escape, there stands Odin's son ready to stop them all. Until he tells them to go. Get out of here. They load up into the ship and they blast off to escape, all except for Tony, who decided to go back to his lab where Steve was waiting for him. They begin to punch it out as the Hulk begins to degenerate and fall apart, turning dead again. Steve stands over Tony. Zola explained it to me. You downloaded your actual consciousness into this AI. So, for all intensive purposes, it's actually you, which is good because I would hate to think I'm going to kill a machine. He raises his shield to finish off Tony, and Tony shouts, "Wait! I'm sorry!" While he says that, though, Hydra Command picks up a weird energy signature from the mountain. Tony goes on, "I know it's not really you in there, but I still want to say it. When we went to war and I stood over your body, I knew I hadn't won anything. All I'd done was fail you. I said then that it wasn't worth it, and when you came back, I told myself that I wouldn't make that mistake again, but I did, over and over. And I thought that this time it was gonna be different, right? This was my chance. I could be you this time. Give them all hope to make them believe in something, and I screwed it up, didn't I? Because I can build the most amazing things, but I can't make myself what you are. All I can do is fake it, Steve. So please know, I wanted to save you so badly because I wanted to be for you what you always were for me. My hero. I'm sorry that I let you down, Cap." And Madame Hydra runs in shouting, "Steven! Goodbye, son!" And as the building explodes in a massive explosion that Tony set off, Steve is teleported away, saving him from that death. Meanwhile, in the Red Room's base, Black Widow's team. She walks over, waking up the champions, pouring a drink for herself. Hydra has won. Your friends are all dead. Tomorrow, we kill Captain America. And there you have it, the second part of Secret Empire. We have a ton of content to cover with this story, which is one of the reasons I'm not a huge fan of it, the amount of fluff that is thrown in. If you're unaware of how long Secret Empire is, there's a 0 issue and an Omega issue, which makes a total of 12 core issues, all of which are 30 to 40 pages, which makes them an issue and a half. That's why we had to break this story up in the manner that we have. Now, I saw a lot of your comments in the first one, and some of you loved the story, some of you hated the story, so that's why we're doing the story. Let me know in the comments down below how you felt about the Bruce Banner twist, because for me, I felt like it was a wasted opportunity. Like, why bring him back if he's just going to crumble away that quickly? It almost kind of it ruins things for me, because in the Uncanny Avengers, he already came back as a zombie. Now they're making him a zombie a second time? Whatever. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about that. Subscribe to this channel to get the finale to Secret Empire and the epilogue and the Spider-Man tie-in, the Deadpool tie-in, and whatever other tie-in I feel like doing. And you can also click right here for the Secret Empire playlist and right over here for something recommended by YouTube. Thank you for your time. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys will stick around to our channel. It really means a lot to me. Have a good night.